Dakar and Rally Raid is going into a new era in 2022, and that new era is all about T1 Plus cars. And with me here at Prodrive with the Bahrain Raid Extreme Hunter car is Paul Doe. Paul is the chief designer for the car. Just tell us a little bit about what's different with the 2022 car over the debut car that we saw from Prodrive last year in 2021.
Yeah, okay, so one of the big sort of factors in the Dakar last year was the amount of punctures that were seen on the T1 4x4 cars that were running the 32-inch tyres. The sidewalls are kind of about the bit of a problem in terms of damage absorption from rocks and so on, and basically after discussions with Michelin it was pretty clear that there was no way further they could go with that size of tyre. So one of the big steps with T1 Plus is to switch to a 37-inch tyre, which is really quite massive.
So let's come and have a look at that for a minute, shall we? Let's just see the sheer size of it. I mean, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, I'm not the smallest guy either, but that's huge.
It's a big old thing. When you see the car sat on four of these, it looks like a completely different car to what we had last year. In fact, yeah, they're big tyres, much heavier actually, which is that's a disadvantage. But in reality, the depth of the sidewall here is what's really making the big difference here. That really gives us a lot more sort of elasticity to absorb the impacts from rocks and so on.
Now, you've got bigger tyres that you've just told us about. Does that then need bigger brakes? How does that work?
Well, one of the things with this particular size of tyre, the 37-inch tyre, it's actually a 17-inch rim. We had a 16-inch rim before with the smaller tyres. Okay, it's only 1 inch difference, but actually that's quite a big percentage difference in the sort of packaging volume for brakes and so on. So actually we've gone up from 320mm discs all the way up to 355mm discs, which is a big step change in the radius that we're working with and the mass of the disc and so on. It wasn't just the tyre size with T1 Plus, it was the wheel travel was another big thing that happened. So we were limited before to 280mm of wheel travel, which is actually not that significant. That's less than a World Rally car. Whereas now we're up to 350mm travel, which is a really big difference. And coupled with the sort of flexibility of the sidewalls makes this car ultra capable over any kind of rough terrain. So another factor that's also tied in with it is the width of the car. So to package this kind of wheel size, we had to increase the width of the car from 2 meters to 2.3 meters, which is part again of the T1. So we're talking about 6 inches each side of the car, wider track, so all the suspension arms are longer than last year's car. And basically that's another opportunity for us to sort of re-look, because we had to do new suspension arms and new uprights and so on to package all of the big brakes. That gave us an opportunity to probably take some learnings, to be honest, from last year's Dakar, where we did have a little bit of damage on the lower suspension arm. So we've managed to sort of take that information, put it back through our analysis and come up with new arms that are significantly stronger but not significantly heavier. So it's quite a big step for us actually. But the width of the car is quite a big thing. So one of those factors actually is that nearly every single body panel has changed. You would think that you could perhaps get away with a smaller change, but I think basically the roof and the doors carry over. But pretty much every single other panel on the car, so the hood, the sills, all of the rear quarters, the rear end is all different. And that was another opportunity, to be honest, because obviously the last year it was our first ever Dakar car. We've done off-road cars before, but to be honest, it's our first sort of space frame car with bodywork like this. And the bodywork was quite good, but actually there was a few things that we saw we thought could probably done that a little bit better. And it's a really good opportunity to do all the packaging of the bodywork and how it works a lot better. So now the spare wheel access with the hinged doors. Before we had a removable panel for the spare wheel, whereas now you can see the hinge system. It's a completely different kind of system and makes for a much easier access to the spare wheels and so on. And just generally the fit of the bodywork, the quality of all of that, and the longevity of it is significantly improved on this car.
Right. What about inside the car? What about the packaging for the driver, the co-driver? Has that changed in some way?
Control. So we've got a completely different aircon system for this year, and basically we've swapped where the air conditioning and all the engine air intake has been. It's kind of swapped around, which is kind of an interesting packaging opportunity.
Because at the end of the day, That's the back of the engine.
Indeed.
About there.
That is the back of the engine, yeah. And the exhaust is under the seat, so you can imagine we've done a lot of work on thermal protection throughout the cockpit and so on. We had that before, obviously, but we've taken it up another level. The silencers actually are new. They're a bigger silencer and different, quite a special internal design to try and quieten things down, because you know the crews are in the car for hours. Obviously, you know, each day they're in the car for 8 hours or something, and just to try to reduce the fatigue. We increased upward visibility. So on the car last year, we had it was kind of when you sat in the car, you sat a long way back from the windscreen. I mean, one of the sort of features of the kind of sporty style, if you like, of this chassis is that it's a very coupe kind of look, very leant back windscreen compared to some of the sort of perhaps more upright designs of a typical off-roader. And because of that, we have a long windscreen. The crew sat very far back, and in fact, there was, you know, both drivers commented that they could see okay down sort of towards as they came over a crest and so on, they could see the ground, but actually coming down into off a dune and coming up the other side, where they really need to be able to see their exit point out of those depressions, is they couldn't see the top of the next dune. So this windscreen is actually now about, I don't know, 150 mil higher up the car, which enables several degrees sort of further vision towards the top of those dunes. So I
think this is exactly what a rally raid car should look like, because you touched on it earlier. You know, the size of the wheels, the stance, the squat, the length, the look. It's the right colour. It's $1 million. It really is. It's just fantastic, and I think it really is the future and a fresh start for the Rally Raid World Championship.